killing is competing today with female infanticide in northern India as primary tool of pervert male domination. Empowerment of women should be treated as an individual as well as a collective responsibility. Specific targets should be laid down and effort should be made to achieve them. There can be no real development of any country without the cooperation of women. No legislation is self-applied. The need of the hour is to go to the root of the problem and solve it. Many a time with judiciary has come forward and filed the yawning gap of legislation by judicial activism, but a movement has to be built which awakens the individual selves in each and every woman for creative and generative action. In this regard, we all have to come together and work on achieving the following objectives so our dream empowerment women can be fulfilled. Create an environment through positive economic and social policies for full development of women to enable them to realize their full potential. The enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedom by women on equal basis with men in all spheres: political, economic, social, cultural and civil. Equal access to participation and decision-making of women in social, political, economic life and of the nation. Equal access to women to healthcare, quality education at all levels, career and vocational guidance, employment, occupational health and safety, social security and public office, etc. Strengthening legal system aimed at elimination of all form of discrimination against women. Changing societal attitude and community practice by active participation and involvement of both men and women. Mainstreaming a gender perspective in the development process. Way ahead. Even in this 21st century, there are many problems before Indian women and solutions are very few. In my view, only the way the real change can be brought is by following advice of Dr. Baba Sahab Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar, in the context of social justice, gave a message to all oppressed in India: arise, educated, demand and most of all, take control of the centers of power. Only larger participation of women in political decision making and can bring the real substantial and everlasting change. Myself and the political organization that I represent, Indian National Congress, is committed to introduce the Women Reservation Bill in the Parliament and make it a reality. The day is not far when women of India will have power to decide its own issue in all the forum of decision making, be it local bodies, state assemblies, the parliament, as well as the judiciary and executives as equal citizens of India. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you, preside over this session. I am Kumkum Sirpurkar, Senior Advocate and ex-President of the Nagpur High Court Bar Association. Well, very good afternoon. We have the next speaker is Honorable Mrs. Justice, I think Mrs. Aminata Louis, from Judge Gambia Court of Appeal.
Chairperson, unfortunately, like the first speaker also, I was of the impression that this meeting was taking place tomorrow afternoon, and I only arrived in my room this morning, so I'm not quite awake yet. But anyway, I hope you will bear with me. I am Gambian by marriage and Zimbabwean by birth. But I would like to speak to the Women's Act 2010 that has just been passed in the Gambia. because I think it is really forward-looking, and all women, we are all looking forward to the implementation of this act. Although there are still some parts of it. Although there are still some parts of it that we still feel should be amended. Now, the Women's Act 2010 is an act to implement the legal provisions of the National Policy for the Advancement of Gambian Women and Girls, and to incorporate and enforce the United Nations Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights on the rights of women in Africa, and for other matters connected therewith. So this is the Women's Act 2010. I'm quite pleased with some of the interpretations that they've now given to certain provisions, which I believe will help judges in deciding cases. For example, the word abuse, the interpretation is that it includes physical, psychological, sexual, verbal, economic, social, cultural, or similar mistreatment or mishandling which interferes with the integrity of the woman. And you've also got the word discrimination against women means any distinction, exclusion, or restriction, or any differential treatment based on sex, and whose objectives or effects compromise or destroy the recognition and enjoyment of or the exercise by women, regardless of their marital status, of human rights and fundamental freedoms in all spheres of life. And the interpretation of violence against women means all acts perpetrated against women which cause or could cause them physical, mental, and emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic harm, including the threat to take such acts or to undertake the imposition of arbitrary restrictions or deprivation of fundamental freedoms in private or public life, in peacetime and during situations of armed conflict or of war. So, as I was saying, I believe that these interpretations are really forward-looking, and we pray that the implementation will be correct. Now, I'll move on to Section 5, which discusses the right to life, integrity, and security of the person. Section 5, subsection 1 reads, every woman is entitled to respect for her life and integrity and security of her person. And subsection 2 is the one that I want to discuss further. Death sentence shall not be carried out on any woman who is pregnant or nursing a child. Now, in my view, I mean, although I'm supposed to be implementing it, the death sentence has come back in the Gambia. It has been removed before. They have brought it back, which I believe is not quite right. And in fact, recently we have had some officers or ex-officers now who were sentenced to death for what they were found to have been to have participated in treason. And that matter has now come to the Court of Appeal for our determination, and so I cannot really discuss it any further. But my theory is whether we should even have the death sentence at all passed in the country. UN international conventions are against having a death penalty. For example, the ad hoc tribunals, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, and even the International Criminal Court. Those accused persons are accused of very serious, heinous crimes. that the whole world community, finds really it frowns against. But they are not being sentenced to death when they are found guilty. The maximum penalty is life imprisonment. So this is something that we really have to fight for in the Gambia as well, to say that this should not happen. In fact, recently the Parliament has just inaugurated another act in which there is also going to be death sentence regarding those who will be found guilty of certain drug-related crimes. So instead of getting better, we are getting worse in my view. Now, Section 6, protection from violence. Every woman shall be protected against any form of physical, sexual, psychological, or economic harm, suffering, or violence, whether occurring in public or private life. Any form of violence against women is hereby prohibited, and we are praying that this will take place. Like she was saying earlier, you have when there is domestic violence, usually the woman will run to her family. The family will come together and they will discuss it. In fact, most of the time it's her own family who will send her back to the husband. We had a situation some years back in which a woman was sent back and forth, and in the final analysis, the man killed her, cut her into pieces, and he was convicted, but then he was found to have been mentally disturbed. But the woman had gone back. If they had not sent her back, she would still be alive today. I'm also a member of BLAG, which is the Female Lawyers of the Gambia, and we are hoping to set up a center where we can help some of these women who have run away from their abusive husbands, so that they can stay there without the family knowing where they are until the matters can be resolved. Because it is very, very sad that you are sent back when you really feel you should not be in that house. Section 7 is access to justice and equal protection before the law. We also have a small population. The Gambia's population is about 1.5 million people. But we have done quite well so far. We have only one Gambia Court of Appeal one Gambia Supreme Court. 5 judges and one of them is a woman. Then we have the Gambia Court of Appeal, in which I'm a member, and we have 4 judges and 2 of them are women. And we have the Gambia High Court. I believe they have about 11 or so judges, and 4 of them are also women. And then in the magistrates courts and the other courts, we also have some women involvement, which I believe is forward-looking. The women are also supposed to be able to take part in civil matters, and we have had some groundbreaking cases in the Supreme Court, like the case of Fatu Baji, and which was a land case, which was decided by the Supreme Court of the Gambia. Another case was Williams against Williams, which was a divorce matter, and the interesting bit there was that when the divorce was granted, and the lower court, the High Court, granted custody of the children to the husband. I believe there were 3 children. And then the wife appealed to the Court of Appeal, saying that the custody should have been granted to her. Whilst the appeal was pending, the husband went and